deep in the shadows.
Hey YouTube, Angie here. This is Angie's Journals and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks so much for coming and watching this video. So today I want to talk about healthy love. What does it consist of? In relationships, how do we know that the love that's within it is healthy and right for us? So I'll start with the definition of love. Love is a showcase of affection towards another human being, a creature, meaning maybe anything from your pet or the bird outside, to objects that we love, meaning favorite foods or favorite outfits, anything. So love is free-flowing, love is easy to have, and can be easy to find. In fact, I believe love starts with self-love. So that's the first thing I want to touch on in love and healthy relationships and what that looks like. Self-love usually isn't brought up alongside with relationships. Usually self-love and relationships are always brought up separately. But in self-love relationships, the love that we have for ourselves, it's important to practice that, because when you have self-love within your life, you are essentially teaching yourself and teaching other people how you want to be loved, how you want to be respected, how you want to be seen, how you want to be treated. Self-love is just a prime example of how we should treat ourselves and show others how we want to be treated, and also in turn how we treat other people. Love is an element that teaches all the time. So it's very important to start within self. An example of self-love is, let's say, getting up in the morning. First thing that most people do, they'll brush their teeth, they'll take a shower, they'll dress, and hopefully in the way that they dress, they're liking what they wear. They dress appropriately. Their clothes are washed, ironed, or just washed and dried is good enough. And they walk out of their house feeling great, feeling, like their best selves, because they took the time in their appearance. Another way to show self-love is on the inside. How we feel about ourselves, what we're confident in doing, what we're confident in being a part of. A lot of times in life, many people have another example of self-love is tending to your emotions, tending to how you feel, how others make you feel, and how you treat others, as I mentioned just a few moments ago. In relationships, when we are interacting and experiencing with one another, things come up, feelings get hurt. How we feel about ourselves, emotionally, mentally, physically, personally, is always important as well, and it definitely reflects the kind of relationships that we take part in. If you are a person who is down on themselves, or a person who doesn't think they are deserving of love or deserving of affection, then the kind of relationships that you'll tend to attract are people who are emotionally unavailable or outright abusive, and just plain mean most of the time. And it leaves a situation for an individual to always crave and want the kind of love that they feel they deserve, but won't seek out for it because deep inside they don't think they deserve it. So it makes it extremely difficult to be in a loving and healthy relationship with a person who clearly, if you don't see yourself in the best kind of light, then the person that you're dealing with more than likely won't see you in the best light either. So it's just a never-ending cycle of toxic behavior that causes that relationship, despite, because believe it or not, you can have two people or even a group of people, a family, whatever, and they all love each other. They genuinely love each other. But due to insecurities and a lot of life experiences, obstacles that keep them from having a healthy perception of what love is and what how love is supposed to, really act in a relationship. It makes it really difficult to, be healthy and loving in a relationship. So self-love is very important. Once again, how you feel about yourself is how people will essentially feel about you. So without self-love, you can't really be in a relationship. I mean, you can, but it wouldn't be the kind of relationship, the healthy relationship that you would want for yourself. So another thing, just to segue into what I was just talking about relationships being toxic and, difficult. Once again, a lot of people will jump into relationships, especially after previously being through one. And let's say that relationship was very troubling. They had a person who, maybe did not treat them well, or even worse, sometimes we ourselves as individuals do not treat ourselves well because of life experiences, how people have treated us in the past. It could be childhood trauma, physical, emotional, and mental abuse. And these things definitely take its toll when it is not properly faced and dealt with. So we go into relationships a lot of the time, once again, not having that kind of self-love element, not realizing that we are worthy of love, we are worthy of being respected, we are worthy of affection, we're worthy of being treated well. And then this breeds a kind of relationship with a person that, believe it or not, those who are abusive, they feel the same way you do. The difference is that they are being destructive with their feelings. You have those who are, I think the word is empathic. They have empathy for others, and it leaves it to be a slippery slope, because when you're an empathic person, you leave yourself open to be taken advantage of and manipulated, because a person who is abusive knows you want well by them. And the difference is that in some cases, not all, but in some cases, you will have a person who may not know how to be kind or to receive love, because that's something that's never been shown to them, and that's another thing. You can't want to show some kind of love and affection if it's never been shown to you. Like, if you don't know how is what I mean. Like, you can't do something that you've never been taught. So a lot of times in toxic relationships, when it's abusive and, whether it be physically, emotionally, or mentally, those things happen because lack of self-love is not involved. The two parties involved, or the group of people involved, have a low a low sense of confidence and esteem, and it causes a lot of trouble, a lot of harmful scenarios to take place. So if you are in an abusive relationship, and let's say you've come to the revelation of that, like, this person is, being mean to you, they are dismissive to you, they try to manipulate, try to harm you in any way, or even worse, you have those who they will do anything to sabotage you or hold you back, then try your best to just eliminate the person altogether if you can. It's a little difficult when it's family members. That's a little bit harder. In relationships, you want to have loving relationships with family members and things like that, but in the event that you have a toxic person in your presence that happens to be a family member, you have to pick and choose on in the way that you will continue a relationship with that person without, engaging in behavior that is demeaning to you. And so with that being said, The next thing I want to talk about, love is mutual. Love should always be mutual. And what do I mean by that? Well, love is mutual in a way that when you are in a personal relationship or even a relationship with friends or family members or even coworkers, the kind of love that you give to another individual, it should be mutual. Mutual meaning you have the same ideas about how you want to be loved in that relationship. You have the same moral compass as far as how you feel the other person should be treated or how you should be treated. Um, Loving relationships really thrive on the elements of balance, respect, compassion, understanding, acceptance, and especially consistency. And consistency encompasses all of those because when we are constantly working on, being in a loving relationship that is mutual, those things will always be at the forefront. You will always be working on how to properly interact and uh, communicate within your relationship. It leaves room for miscommunication. It leaves room for a lot of annoyance and fatigue and impatience because no one is quite understanding what the other person wants or what their needs are. So it only leaves room for people to feel neglected and just totally misunderstood. So that's why in the start of relationships, it's really important to just simply have a conversation with the person that you care about, or with family members. Because believe it or not, we all start as strangers. Even if it's your parents, your grandparents, your cousin, friends or people outside of our family circle are not the only strangers that we once had in our lives. You had to go through how should I say, a learning moment between you and your family member. So at one point you were strangers. There was a point where you didn't know the other one existed and you had to get acquainted and acclimated to one another and get to know each other in a way, so that you know how to interact and you build a life together that way. So everyone starts as a stranger. So that's something to, kind of think on. Um, so with that being said, with love being mutual, we all start off as strangers. So it's really important as you progress in your relationships, take the time to have a conversation, not just when things are bothering you, but sometimes it's good to just have a conversation when things pop up in your mind. I personally, I'm very close with my mom. We have conversations all the time. Sometimes they're very intense. We have disagreements. But we always say, I love you at the end because it's very true. We do love each other. And I think it's important to put that in the forefront. Like, I don't agree with what you just said, but I need you to know that I love you. I support you. I'm here for you no matter what. So and that's kind of, I think, with me and my mom, that's what kind of builds this kind of mutual relationship that we have. Like, we both have the same kind of love language, if you will. Love understanding where, okay, we have our differences. We're different. We're individuals, but we find a compromise and a mutual road with respect and understanding and acceptance and consistency. So we're very consistent in how we talk to each other. We're very consistent in how we treat one another. And when the other one is slipping, we'll call them out on it or talk to them about it. So that's why that's definitely an example just of how love can be mutual. And in relationships, a lot of times you have men and women who are in relationships and, let's say it's not necessarily toxic or whatever, but there are different things about that relationship that it causes for a relationship to kind of strain a little because Like one time I heard of a man who, this was on television, I think it was like on the OWN network or something, and it was about love and relationships. And basically, this man wanted to have a baby with, the person he was in love with. They were married, but the woman did not want to have children, you know? Their situation was quite rare because eventually, because the woman ended up realizing, the wife ended up realizing that she was afraid to have children in the end, and that's why she didn't have them, and that's why she went as long as she did without having children. So it kind of, they're the exception to the rule because it kind of worked out. But a lot of times I hear stories of, someone wanting to have a child, or someone wanting to get married, or, and the other person is opposed to it and they don't want to do it. So, and it doesn't mean that they don't want to be with the person, they don't love the person, but it's just they have a particular lifestyle that they want for themselves, and for them to get married or have a baby, that totally changes that, and that's not something they would mutually agree on. But because they love this individual, or the two people love each other so much, they hold on hoping that maybe that there will be some kind of compromise, or the other person will just what's the word I'm looking for? Confirm, not confirm, conform to, what the other person wants. But it never quite goes that way because, as humans, we want to be satisfied. We want our desires fulfilled. So when that doesn't happen within our relationships, we become extremely unhappy. And, most of the time it leads to a breakup. It leads to, things not working out, or even worse, you being in a relationship for a long period of time where you're unhappy because essentially you're just not getting what you need or what you want from that relationship or what you desire. So love should definitely be mutual, because when love is not mutual, it's just wasting a lot of time. It's wasting a relationship that can be healthy, that can be, strong, you know. So love should definitely, you should always be with a person who has the same ideals as you, not exact ideals, but you guys have a same understanding of what love is for you, and what life and relationship is for you, and what that should be like. So always make sure that love is mutual. And the next thing I'm going to speak on is that love is particular. What I mean by that is that love should be given to everybody. I personally am a big believer of love being given to everyone. I love love. I love expressing love to people in all kinds of ways, although the way the world is built, I can't necessarily do that. But love should be particular in how you give it out. Love should be with intention. We have all kinds of relationships. When it's with family, it's hard because obviously we are biologically attached to them. Regardless of what you go through, if time has passed and you haven't seen them for a long amount of time, whatever goes on within your relationship, it doesn't matter. You are still biologically connected to this person. So that makes it extremely difficult to want to be around a person who, say, you and that person, you butt heads, you don't get along, or it may simply be from your perception, like, you're trying to work things out, you're trying to work with the person, but they make things difficult, or they don't seem to understand that their actions have effects. They have effects, and they affect you, and it, makes you feel a certain type of way. With friends and personal relationships, love should be particular. Love comes from self first, as always, as I've been saying from the top of the video. And then love should be given to other people. Love is particular. What I mean by that is that love should be intentioned in the way that is given and displayed in relationships. When With family members, it's always difficult because you are biologically attached to a person. So, regardless of what you go through, no matter what you go through, you are going to be biologically attached to this person for your whole entire life. So, if you decide to have a relationship with the person that, or the family member that you're having difficulties with, depending on what's going on, taking the time to listen, to try to leave the lines of communication open so that when there is a problem, you and that other person can talk about it. That's always one good way of going about it. But sometimes we'll have people in our lives and they just like making things difficult, or they're not ready. They're simply not ready to have a proper relationship because they may not know how, or they're just not in the mind frame to be in a healthy relationship because they themselves are not healthy. So in that case, I mean, I'm a strong believer in definitely preserving all relationships, but push comes to shove, it's about your well-being. And just because you love a person in your family, it doesn't mean you should give up your happiness or your well-being or your mental state, your sanity, just to make sure that your family member is okay. You can do that, but it's okay to walk away. It's okay to want to self-preserve. It's okay to want to choose yourself first. It's okay. It's okay to be selfish in that way, as long as you're not hurting the other person in order to do it. Um, Love is particular in personal relationships, friendships, and friends, where it's slightly different because for me personally, I have a friend who I've known most of my life. And that friend, a couple years ago, I decided to cut ties with them because at the end of the day, I didn't like how I felt in that friendship. I wasn't happy in that friendship. Also, I knew that deep down I wasn't treating myself well in that friendship, and how I viewed myself, I felt that other person viewed me in the same way. So there was a lot of insecurities there that I was dealing with. And I felt deep down like, well, if I'm dealing with all these insecurities and I can't really express them or talk to the person about it, which I did try to do, but it just seemed to fall on deaf ears, or for me, I just didn't get the response that I thought I was supposed to get. I was hoping that that individual would be more open to it, or would say more, and they didn't. It was just kind of stuff kind of brushed under the rug. So, I had to make the decision. The revelation came and I said to myself, you know what? I do love this individual. I do admire them. I respect them tremendously. But at the end of the day, I just feel like I can't grow in that relationship. I don't feel safe in that relationship. I don't feel supported, or it was just a really complicated situation. The person was extremely kind to me, and they did support me, uh, except towards the end. So with what I was feeling like. But I decided to cut ties with that person because at the end of the day, I love them no matter what. I don't care what goes on between me and that individual. I love them, but I need to do what is best for me. And if I can't be at the end of the day, if I can't be the best kind of me for you and for myself, then I do not need to be in that relationship. So I think it's super important in relationships that, I think the first rule is that you should be able to be authentic. Be authentically yourself. If you can't be yourself, then there's no point in being in the relationship if you really feel like being who you are is not going to be accepted. So, love should definitely be intentional. Love can be given to everybody, but you should be very, very particular and very specific in how you give your love to others. You know, in a way to not be taken advantage of, not to be manipulated, and not to have your love twisted around into something else. It's okay to love people from afar. I do it all the time, every day of the week. And at the end of the day, even if it's painful, because some relationships you want to be a part of, you want to engage people, but if you know it's just not the safe thing to do, it sucks because you want to be there for people, you want to be supportive, but at the end of the day, if you know that no good could come from it, that you can't grow from that relationship or grow in that relationship or evolve in that relationship, then it is best to just say your prayers for people and love them from afar. I mean, that's what I do, definitely. So, also, last thing I want to touch on in love and healthy relationships is that love is a practice. In anything in life, if you want to be good at it, if you want it to have a good outcome, it's a practice. Love is a practice. And back to self-love once again, because that seems to be the recurring theme here. Self-love is a practice. If you don't practice self-love, then you'll never know, how you want to be treated, or you'll never get the great understanding of how great you are, believe it or not. Not to sound weird or corny or anything, but we are all great in our own way. We're unique, we're brave, we're creative, we're strong, we're powerful. We are leaders, we are, the best version of ourselves. And practicing self love, you are shaping that, you're horning that, you know what I mean? So self love is a practice, and love of others and love in loving relationships is a practice and a habit. It could be something as simple as, when in personal relationships of all kinds, doing something kind for someone, saying a encouraging word when needed, or just being plainly supportive when a person is in need, because sometimes in life we have our moments in our relationship where somebody could be going through something that we may not understand, we may not get, or we've never been through ourselves. So we may not be able to properly help the person the way we would like. So it's important to be supportive and be consistent in all of those things, in respect and love and support, in acceptance and tolerance, in compassion. Especially compassion is a biggie. I didn't really talk about that in the midst of the video, but briefly I'll say compassion is super important, especially in a moment like that, because compassion is the element that helps us to accept a person even when we don't quite understand. So practicing love on a daily basis with yourself and with others is a way to better and build happy and long-lasting relationships. So practicing love in relationships helps for the love in that relationship to be able to evolve and grow. And when things happen, resolve is easier to come to, because love definitely has its moments of intense debate or intense disagreement. And when that happens, that's okay, because that's a part of life. Love in itself is perfection, but it has its imperfections with the kind of trials and tribulations you go through in personal loving relationships. But even with that happening, when you have love as a practice, practicing respect, practicing compassion, practicing acceptance, you definitely leave a space in your relationship for things to be able to heal, right? And then you come to a new understanding of the person that you're in that relationship with. And it causes love to grow in a whole new way, because essentially in our relationships, it's a big part of it is evolving. A big part of it is growth, because in a relationship, you don't stay the same all the way through. People who are in family relationships, how you started, once again, you're strangers. Prime example, my mom and I, we were strangers. I mean, I was conceived, I was in her womb for 9 months. She had me at birth, And then it's like, wow, I now see my mother physically. I know of her existence. She knows of mine. This is our first acquaintance. And now, for the last 37 years, we're getting to know each other. And in that 37 years, there's been a lot of ups and downs, a lot of differences, a lot of happy times as well, and a lot of moments of growth and evolution. So it's never quite the same, you know? You never have the same, the core of you as a person is the same, but the kind of experiences that we have, the kind of trials and tribulations that we go through, it definitely shapes us as people, and will definitely help us to evolve in our relationship, hopefully for the positive, in the long run. So always remember that love is a practice. We have to practice acts of love every day. That's how we make the world a better place, believe it or not. When we practice acts of love, it could be something as simple, believe it or not, act of love is opening up a door, saying thank you, doing something kind for someone when they didn't ask. Just, you know what, you see a person needs help, here you go. Let me just do this thing for you. You know, and it could be from the people that we love, that we know, to perfect strangers. I believe love is not, how can I say, it's not limited. Love is for everything and everybody. So that's why it's super important to practice love within ourselves and within our relationships every single day, every moment of the day. So that is my video on healthy love and what it consists of. I'm so happy to have done this video today, and so happy to see you guys and for you to see it. If you like what you saw, and hopefully it's inspired you, I really hope it has, please don't hesitate. Share so that someone else can see this content and be inspired and motivated as well. But also, if you'd like to see more content like this, please press the subscribe button and do not forget to press the notification bell so that when I upload, you can see all the new stuff. So this has been so amazing, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week and sail into the weekend happy, ready to relax, ready to have a good time, or just breathe after a long week of virtual school or work or whatever it is that you're doing in your life. But I wish you peace, love, and light, and I will see you next time in the next video.